Hi, this is Pat McDonald, your host for Vote for Vermont, where our tagline is listening beyond the soundbites. We're continuing with our candidate interview, and today is my own representative, Representative Ann Donahue, who's in the House of Representatives and representing Washington 1.
That's right.
I was due 3-3 when that was Berlin and part of Barry City, but now you have Berlin,
Northfield. And Berlin.
I would
yes.
love to represent Northfield. That's a good group.
It's a great community, and they go well together.
Yeah, I think so, because we have Route 12 that sort of
exactly
fits right into Northfield, so that's a good thing. Anyway, for those of you who don't know you well, you want to introduce yourself to the audience and tell us a little about yourself?
Sure. Well, I was born here in Vermont, came back to settle in Northfield about 30 years ago now, and I have been in the House. This would be my 10th term coming up.
Good for you.
I am a Republican, sort of independent Republican, if you will. The Republicans are a big tent, which is what I like.
There you are.
That's it.
And you bought a home a couple of years ago, and it's when last time I saw you, you were fixing it up.
It was a fixer-upper.
I go by
big
all the time to just look and see where you're at with that. I give you a lot of credit.
You've got to come visit sometime because I love showing it off. The roof was collapsing and things like that. It was in pretty rough shape,
Well,
and it
good
was
for
a
you.
hobby to fix it
Well,
up.
it's a find, right? When you
Yeah.
fix it up, it's great.
Yeah.
So I know you've obviously served, you just said, for 10 years, but what are you out talking to your constituents about the priorities that you and they would like to see happen?
Yeah, well, obviously affordability is always high on the list, but for me, my deep dive has from the start been in healthcare.
Right.
And healthcare drives all the other costs. People talk about the education system costing too much. It's healthcare benefits, our state government,
Right.
healthcare benefit for employers, small business struggling
Right.
to get by. They often can't even afford
Homeless is big.
it is a
Yeah,
huge,
huge.
huge topic. So the more we can get a focus, and that's one of the areas where I think having some people who have been there a good amount of time, it's a very complex thing. You got to really do the deep
Now,
dive.
what committee are you on? I get confused
on
with,
the
you're on the
healthcare
healthcare,
committee.
because there's another committee,
Human
Human
Services.
Service, which sort of may overlap a little bit. I get confused
Well,
with
I
them.
was on it for quite a while, and one of my passions has been on mental health issues.
Right.
And Human Services had mental health until finally people caught on it. Oh yeah, mental health's a part of healthcare.
Yes, right, right.
And we moved it over, and I moved with it.
You were on the show, I think, last year talking about that, about the things that have really changed in healthcare, like parity and people understanding that mental health is healthcare. And I think that's a big move forward, right?
People understand, but we're not there yet. And one of the things I was very pleased about this year, a bill I brought, was creating a healthcare integration council for fully integrating mental health with healthcare. And instead of it just being mental health people, it's the healthcare system, it's the insurers, the hospital association, all the players being a part of the discussion of where are we not integrating, how do we do it right?
We used to have, before Tony stepped down as chief of police of Montpelier, I used to have him here all the time. I
was
loved
so
him.
good.
But he had that Team 2, they put this
Yes.
Team 2 concept together, where if they were going to a home where there was some issues, or any place where there was issues of somebody with mental health, they would bring a mental health professional with them, and they all learned to work together so that they could diffuse the situation, which made a lot of sense to me.
Team 2 was really about the training
Yep.
to know each other
Right.
and coordinate
Right.
so that everybody was on the same page.
Yeah, and I think that's
Very
continuing,
valuable.
I
It is.
hope.
Yes.
That's good.
Yes.
I don't hear people talking about it too much, but it makes sense to me. So here we are in the midst of, you arrived with your mask, I have mine here, and hard to talk on a video without it, but, I mean, with it. How are you reaching out to your constituents? No door-to-door, I'm assuming.
No door to door, no. It's very hard. I tell you, I was never a Facebook user. It just wasn't my thing.
Right.
And when the coronavirus hit, I started using it to just pass on information.
Right.
There's so much information flow. So now I'm kind of on it a lot. I
Yeah.
use that. I use Front Porch Forum a
Yeah,
whole
you
lot.
do, yeah.
I have been doing I really believe in transparency and helping people understand issues. I've been doing a legislative update since the very
Right,
beginning.
right.
In fact, people can see the entire back history if they go on the blog site.
Yeah.
But I also, Front Porch Forum also
Yeah.
puts those
I enjoy those,
up,
what you
so.
what you write in Front Porch Forum. That's good. So I've asked everybody, and of course the people who are running new kind of look at me like, whoa. It's hard, it's not going to be that hard, I understand, from the budget perspective. It's always hard, but we have a little bit of money left over, they said, that might help soften the blow. But 2022 is going to be a dandy. And where do you think we might go in our discussions? I know some folks don't want to, reduce anything or do away with anything, and so we're all a little worried that the taxes may rise.
Yeah, well, what happened this year is that because the pandemic didn't hit till 3/4 of the year, and there was a delay on that final tax, there was a deferment, so it was a big unknown, the expectation that revenues would drop a lot, and they didn't, and that's what saved us.
Right.
But we know that it's going to hit for next year, and so that's the scary thing. But it's still really an unknown. How bad might it be? We had some economic experts who met last week, and we could all Zoom in and watch, and they talked about, what's the best case, worst case, and
Was that
how much
Cavett
it's
and?
unknown. Yes, but also two national.
Oh, really? Oh, I
yeah,
have
yeah.
to go
We
look at that.
Brought in some big guns.
Oh, good for us.
So it was very good. What do you do? Well, we have been able to preserve our rainy day funds. We didn't use them to get through this current.
Great,
So
great.
that's we're in better condition than many states on that.
Because we've done a lot of shows here about the pension.
Yep.
4.5 billion, but hey, and Lake Champlain, and of course the latest about higher education and what we do there. So there's money that's needed in
It
a
is
couple of key
needed.
places.
It is needed. I think there are probably some things where, as long as we stick to it, we can say, we can suspend doing this for a year. We're not going to stop it, it's crucial, but we can hold off. Unfortunately, that argument didn't work when I wanted to hold off for 3 months on the Global Warming Solution Act, because I just felt like we're leaping into a big new initiative.
Huge.
It's crucial.
Yeah.
I believe in it. It's a critical thing. But we will know so much more in January where we stand, and maybe we could hire one person instead of 3 to get it started. To take on a new commitment right now.
Besides, it's going to cost us, from what I understand, a few bucks, and why?
Well, $500,000 right to start.
What? And then to encourage, and I know people can sue the state, but to encourage it,
Yeah.
just it's like opening Pandora's box.
I don't think that's the worst part.
Really?
People can sue, but they can't sue for damages.
No, but
They can
they
sue to
cause
say,
trouble.
make them do it,
Right.
and okay, well, we're already trying to do it.
Right.
It can cost something, but I am much more, the biggest concern to me is the amount of over-delegation of what our responsibility as a legislature is.
Oh, really?
So we're creating this council. All the decision-making on rules and regulations, all is turned over to them.
Oh,
And that's not right.
No.
We have to own the decisions.
Right.
And that was my big concern. I voted for it when it left the House because I was hoping that, I just wanted to say, this is really important, but I was hoping the Senate would pull it back. And then we had Coronas. The Senate didn't even look at the bill.
they just
hardly.
passed
It
it.
just rubber stamped it with some
Right.
tweaks. I thought, we can't do this.
well, we've done that before, just putting a committee of unelected people in charge. If I remember correctly, healthcare years ago, that was 5 people that.
Well, but they don't have as much unfettered authority as what we're
oh,
giving
really?
this
Lovely.
council. So,
Okay, good.
yeah.
Are there experts on there? I hope. I mean, no, all right, never mind. Well, we'll move on.
There are on this count. The Climate
Yeah.
Council includes some experts.
Right.
But
Now, I missed this today. Have they voted on the global, because the governor
Yes.
vetoed it, so they overrid the.
oh, no. Did he vote?
He vetoed it.
When?
the other day, yesterday, didn't he? He said he was going to.
No, he said he's going to, but you know, it always takes a process.
Oh, okay,
through
so he
the
hasn't
attorneys.
yet.
We passed it out of the House and it was sent to him on Friday.
Oh, okay.
So he doesn't
okay.
even have it
Oh,
yet,
all right.
but he
So,
said he's going to.
He said he was
Yeah,
going to,
yeah.
and then I read something that Mitzi put out something that said it was, you know, probably a foregone conclusion because she probably has the votes to override it.
Well, the vote on the House floor Friday were enough. People would have to change their minds. And
Right.
I actually think, personally, I don't think it's right to change your vote just because a governor vetoes it.
Right, I agree.
Even if
I
I'm
agree.
on the other side,
Right.
you know, even if I'm voting against my own
Right.
governor or something.
Should have
you
a
know,
little
if you
conviction
believe
in your vote.
Right. If
Yeah.
you believe in it, you stay with it. So in this case, it goes against me, but in terms of the position I
Right.
have, but I don't think it's right to change.
Well, we'll see what happens. I'll have to
Yeah.
pay attention. I've been so busy doing these interviews and stuff, I haven't actually tuned in.
Right.
So the other day, the governor said in one of his press conferences, which I have to give him a lot of credit for, he's been out there a lot, and very good information. And he and Dr. Levine, oh my God, everybody's in love with that man. He's so charming.
He's just such
Doesn't get ruffled.
a modern. He's not one of these slick people,
No,
you know.
right,
He's
right.
just himself.
Yeah, he is. He's so cool. But he said, sadly, that the economy is not coming back as quickly as he had hoped and others. So, what would we like to do when we get back there?
I think the most critical thing is that we keep investing in doing everything to help our businesses. And I know that's not always popular, especially if they're larger businesses. But if you don't do that, you don't maintain jobs. And if you don't have jobs, people are the ones who lose. You know, there's that old expression, give a man a fish, he eats for a day.
Oh, yes, give him
teach him to fish, he eats for Well, what I would say is, well, he does also need the fishing rod.
There you go. The tools.
The tools. So we need to make sure that we keep
Right.
those there. Because people know how to fish.
Yeah.
They know how to work. They know how to...
I must say, my impression of the legislature has always been that they don't think too highly of small. I know you do, but some just don't see. They think they make a fortune, and I don't think any of our businesses in Vermont, their, what do they call it, the margin, the revenue.
Their margins are small.
It's tiny. It's like one thing goes wrong, like COVID, and they could be belly up, and they don't make the bazillion of dollars that they think they do.
That's right. Even the big ones on our scale, which are small anywhere else,
Right.
and they're the ones that, you know, end up leaving the state if they
Yeah,
can't
right.
survive in our environment. And of course, the backbone is our small business.
And what kills me is most of those people are our coaches for the kids, are the people that volunteer at the soup kitchen, and
They're our
our
neighbors.
Exactly. Thank you. I don't get why they don't get it. So I know you know that Campaign for Vermont and Vote for Vermont, which is this show, has done a lot of work on ethics. We worked really hard, and I think it was because of Campaign for Vermont that ethics even made it
Wow.
to be
Oh,
discussed.
I
No,
didn't
that's
even
true.
realize that. Yeah.
About for 2 years they hammered at it because we were the only. There were 2 states that had nothing, and of course
We were one
of them.
Yes.
So the thing that's in front of them, Larry Novin, who is the executive director for the Ethics Commission, submitted a laundry list of things that a bill should have, and it's going to be discussed next January, and it's going to have some teeth to it because he feels that you can't say no, 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 and you know, like you just said about the global warming, you know,
Yeah.
bad, but then what are you going to do?
Well, and I'll tell you, I support that in theory, but that's a classic example of do we need it in
Oh,
January?
right, yeah.
Because it means money. To put teeth in it means
Yep,
enforcement people,
probably.
it means money. Do we have a pressing problem right now that next year is when we have to do that, when there's no money, and what's it going to trade off on? Childcare?
right,
You know, where
right.
are you going to shift it to?
Right.
So I wouldn't support that at this point. But what I do support, I'm on the Rules Committee in the House.
Oh, with Robin. He's the chair, right?
Yes, and that gives me a real frontline seat in participating in some of the key things to keep the process open and
Right.
transparency. And there's nothing like openness, you know,
Right.
to
right,
keep a system honest.
Right.
And I think, and I give Mitzi a lot of credit as a leader. she's very good. Sometimes she needs to be pushed a lot, and she gets there. So
Yeah,
it's,
she seems
it's
to be got a
process.
good handle on the job.
Yes.
And Robin, he's been on the show and talking about the Rules Committee, and that's not a fun committee. I mean, it's just a lot of detail and a lot of
Right, he's
work.
not on it.
I thought he was the chair. Is he now
The Rules
not?
Committee? No, he's
Robin
never been on it.
Oh.
Chestnut Tangerman?
Yeah.
No, he's not on the Rules Committee.
Oh, sorry about that, Robin.
Yeah.
I thought he was. What
He
do I-
sits
okay.
in on it
Oh.
a lot, but he's not a voting
Oh, I have
member,
to
no.
find out what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So we just wanted to switch a little bit because we have Black Lives Matter, and I don't want to talk about Black Lives Matter as an entity, but I think those who have now taken on the Black Lives Matter banner and are doing all the protests in Burlington and here at the State House, which I attended. What are we going to do? They're blocking streets in Burlington. What do you think? Is there a role for the legislature, or is it more mayors and governors?
I think it is a leadership issue, mayors and governors and councils. But what bothers me, what challenges me is we used to have something called civil disobedience. And of course, civil is part of it, but also disobedience. We knew, we recognized, we respected people who felt strongly about their beliefs, and they broke the law and expected the consequences proudly. I had a cousin who protested at Seabrook, the nuclear
Oh,
power
really?
plant,
Wow. And
way back,
yeah.
and he was arrested, and he spent his week in jail,
Yeah.
because that was how you stood for your beliefs. And I think right now, some of these young people, I don't know what's wrong with civics class, but they think they have it's part of their right to free speech to block traffic.
Right.
And if you arrested them for blocking traffic, instead of saying proudly, I am involved in civil disobedience, I am proud that I was arrested, they'd be screaming, you violated my right to free speech.
Right.
I don't know how we can't get there right now. It's a longer term education, because right now you would sort of set off a tinderbox. You can't start saying, all right, we're going to start arresting you all. I mean, but we've gotten to a place where people don't recognize that yes, you have a right to civil disobedience, and you pay the consequences, because you are in fact breaking the law.
Right.
You don't have a right.
Or you can protest peacefully and get your message across.
That's right. Or you can not engage in civil disobedience. There
Yeah.
used to be demonstrations where some people would get arrested,
Yeah.
they'd block a road or something,
Right.
and some would be on the side watching, and they would
Right.
choose which role they wanted. Right.
Well, I was at that one in State House to honor the police,
Which was not civil.
which was not civil.
You know what bothered me more than anything? I looked at some of the media, and when at the end in an interview, when one of the protesters said, well, it's just unbelievable that they would be out here celebrating police brutality. I was like, that's clearly not what they're doing. You can disagree with whether police should be honored at all at this point when things are very scary and all that. You can disagree, but don't make up something.
Right.
They were not.
Oh,
they were
had
celebrating.
no clue, Ann. No
they were
clue.
celebrating the fact that police do great things for us, protecting us. They save lives. That's a part of.
And we just had 9/11, and I think I put a comment on, while everybody was running this way, fire and emergency management, they were running towards the buildings.
And I believe that we have issues with holding police accountable.
I do, too.
Before everything broke loose back in January, I'm the one who actually put in the bill on revamping our use of force policy in Vermont.
Good for you.
And there were some hearings, but it wasn't, I believed it was something that would need a couple of years to work on, to really work on. And it wasn't really going anywhere until everything happened, and now it's got all this momentum.
Well, I think I wrote after the Saturday event at the State House, I wrote to the Sergeant at Arms and I wrote to the Buildings Commissioner. And I just said, you better rethink what happened here, because it's not the Vermont way. It's changing, and you guys have to be ready for the next event, because I was very nervous, like where are the people that are going to help? I knew that there were several law enforcement officers in the crowd because I knew them, but they were in civvies, and I knew that I'd be okay. but they're not supposed to be there. They weren't planning on jumping in and defending, but they would. But anyway,
Yeah.
it's not the Vermont way anymore.
No,
It's changed, and we have to change with the times. So, and I hope we haven't heard that much. Although they were talking about defunding the police, I just don't see it.
Well, there's actually a very good example of that debate happening right now in the State House.
Oh, what?
So the Department of Public Safety, and I give them huge credit, and the governor huge credit for recognizing the importance of the issue. So they scraped together money from within their budget to come up with funds for 7 positions where they would contract with our community mental health agencies to have mental health folks embedded in the barracks.
Oh, I didn't
to
know
help
that. Good.
respond. Well, yes, good, but. Always a but. And the real issue for me is we got to remember mental health and even being in a mental health crisis is a healthcare issue. It is a healthcare issue. Now, if there's a safety risk, you want the police involved. They need to be there to help.
Right.
But conceptually, should you think about it as a police issue, or should you think about it a health issue where you may need to collaborate and have police assist?
Right.
And so I felt very strongly that money should be located under the Department of Mental Health to develop it with the state police and come up with a model that works, but that doesn't communicate the message.
Yeah.
This is a police
Because
matter.
you think they would be able to better assess the situation, the mental health people, rather than the law enforcement people?
Well, for one thing, really helping work together so that law enforcement realizes there aren't necessarily, the dangers they think, and there may be de-escalation. The police themselves will tell you, this isn't our realm of expertise. We can get training in de-escalation, but we don't know the issues in depth.
Right.
And it's not that you wouldn't want to use law enforcement in all the appropriate cases, but where should the thought process come from about how to set it up? So the House actually passed the budget with that money
I missed that.
moved to the Department of Mental Health.
Good.
Department of Public Safety is not happy about that.
bet.
So that's
bet.
part of
But-
the grand process.
But if they support Team 2, and that's the same, and it's working, so,
Well, they said it's going to put a hole in our budget, and I said,
no, this is new money.
no, it's not new money.
Oh,
It's
it's
money
money.
they found through vacancy savings law. But if they found it and they said, this is how we're going to spend it, then why does it matter if it's under another department?
You're being too logical, Ann. It's about money in a department.
I know.
You've been around
Yeah,
long
yeah.
enough.
So we'll see
It's all
where it
about the
ends.
money.
But,
Well,
but it's a similar
that's a good
issue.
start.
You know, when people say defund, and they actually mean, now some of them mean
Yeah, they
get
mean
rid
go
of
right-
it.
yeah.
But some of it mean change the focus.
Right.
And in a sense, this would be defunding
right.
a little bit of the state
Right.
police to put the money into the mental health, even though the purpose would be to support the
Right,
police.
I agree with that.
in
I wish they would,
responses.
for those who really think they can defund the police and make them go away, good luck with that.
Yeah.
I've been taking shooting lessons. So there was a guy the other day that just, defund the, blah, blah, blah. And I said, listen, when somebody comes into your office, I said, I'll give you my number. Call me up, I'll help. I mean, are they kidding? You know it's going to be bad.
But Pat, you know that I have a history with mental illness.
Right,
That's part of what I brought to the job,
Right.
is that knowledge and that perspective. And part of that includes a couple of instances where I was in a crisis and it involved the police. And I can tell you, one of them went superbly well. I give huge credit. It was the Barrie Police, and the officer involved, he tricked me in a really good way
Yeah.
into going up to the hospital as the only way he could help me make a phone call.
Right.
I was confused enough to fall for it.
Right.
You know. But the other time was horrific, and I actually had spent 15 minutes in an overturned car and
Oh,
done
my
CPR
word,
on a victim who died.
Yeah.
And then it was a very traumatic thing. It triggered me easily
would
because
think.
of my own mental history.
Right.
Had a crisis. And I was arrested and charged with interfering with a rescue scene.
While you were trying to help save
No,
somebody.
my role was done. I
Oh,
had spent 15
right.
minutes in a snowstorm. The first responders had then taken over, and I was backing off, and they were like, okay, you can leave, go.
Right.
And I was like,
I see, right.
anyway.
I hope we got that straightened out fairly quickly, did we not? Well,
some legal defense money. I was
Yeah.
found in effect not guilty by reason of
Yeah.
temporary insanity.
Wow.
Not quite that, but
Oh,
it did
that's
get
real-
dropped.
I'm sorry
but it
about
was,
that.
yeah, it was pretty traumatic. That
Yeah.
was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But still,
Oh, well, see, it stays with you though,
oh,
right?
it absolutely does. It
Yeah.
was very traumatic.
Yeah, how sad. That's bad. Well, but maybe now, if they really are aware of mental health, because what's worrying me is there's such a broad range of mental health. It's not
Yes.
one size fits all,
Yes.
and sometimes you can't tell by looking at somebody that they could go into a reaction, like say like you did, and how do you identify the signs? Because it's all over the board, I would think.
And police officers are human too. And
Right.
there have been 2 instances that I'm very familiar with where, you hear exactly what happened from everyone's perspective,
Right.
or you actually even see a body cam. And those police officers did such a superb job in escalation. But at the end of it, they just got
They've had
stressed
enough.
out.
Yeah, right.
They had had it and they kind of lost it. And
Yeah.
that's when it
Right.
fell apart,
Right. Well,
And
but that's what they're supposed to be trained for.
and that's what, right.
That's not
It's
right.
not okay.
No.
It's not okay.
Right.
But your heart kind of goes out to them because you see the really great effort
Right.
that led up until they just,
That's
couldn't
enough.
maintain their
Enough.
patience. It
Right.
was like, oh.
All right, so our last question, because we've got a minute
Okay.
and 2 minutes almost. But why are you the best candidate for the job? And why should we re-elect you once again?
Well, I could point to a lot of things I've achieved and want to still achieve, but I actually think one of the most basic things, we have a lot of turnover in our legislature.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. Fresh ideas, new faces, that's important. But you have to have some people
Right.
who have been there long enough to kind of know the history, know what we've done. If there were a whole bunch of people like me who've been there for a long time, I'd say, time to get some fresh
Right,
voices. We don't have that. Our healthcare committee last year had the chair and I as vice chair were the only
Oh, my word.
2 returning. It was scary.
That's
I'm
serious.
sorry. The only 2 who had more. We had a few people who had been there 1 term, but we were the only 2 who had been there more than 2 terms.
And she was a wonderful
issue.
candidate, as we were talking about. I asked her what committee she'd like to be on. Went completely blank. She had no idea. And I said, well, you have to give them 2. A lot of them don't know a thing about
Right.
how it works. I mean, they see the results and they
Yep.
like it or they don't like it. And I think in the first year I was there, I tried really hard not to be my usual Budinsky approach to life, because you're part of a new team now and you've
Yes.
got to feel your way around. And I think the old timers aren't really receptive too much to some new person standing up saying, you guys are all wrong, here's how you have to play the game like you do on any team.
You do,
Right.
You do, and I have a good
You
good
do,
chair. I work really well. We work well together.
Who's
We're
the
a team.
chair?
Bill Lippert.
Oh, I love Bill. Oh,
Yeah.
that's great. He's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah,
He's a good
very,
guy.
very good to
Yeah.
work with.
Ann Pugh was the chair of
Human Services.
Human Services. Yeah, right. Excellent.
But
Well, great. So, and I must commend you for all the stuff you write about, and I like the Front Porch Forum. I think it's nice. And
that's the same thing I sent out to a long email list, but then
do
I
you?
also put it on Front
It's good.
Porch Forum. It's,
Yeah.
I try to just be really open and say, here's what I'm thinking.
right.
Might not agree with that, but here's what I'm thinking. Here's what's happening. Here's why I'm doing this.
And you're out and about. I think I've seen you at different meetings and stuff around. So,
Not so much in the last
well,
6
I know
months.
you can't.
Right. I feel badly about that because particularly I live in Northfield, but Berlin, I just feel very disconnected in the last 6 months because I can't go to events and
Right.
see people.
Well, and we don't have, like, Northfield's got the town.
Right.
So you could sort of stand on a corner and wave or do whatever. But anyway, well, I wish you luck. We've run out of
you.
time. Thank you for stopping by.
Thank you very
And,
much for doing this.
Well, no problem. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next week. And in the meantime, keep listening beyond the sound bites.